Yeah, this is the Illusion reporting from Malibu, California, somewhere on planet Earth. Looks like Zuma Beach if you ask me. Anyway, I thought I'd tell you a tale of me versus the federal government hugging trees. So let me set the stage. It's 1996, living in Portland, Oregon. The salvage rider is in full effect, meaning that the federal government has given the timber industry retroactive power to cut down all the stands of protected old growth that are in the Pacific Northwest. So it's a basic free-for-all. Now, at the time, I'm heavily involved in environmental activism, tree hugging. That's my deal, man. Save the old growth. So I formed my own group called Skateboarding Citizens of the Future, also known as SCOFF. And we're registering disenfranchised youth under the skateboarding party, trying to get it on the state ballot between Republicans and socialists. Yeah, we figured it would be wildfire. So, I'm pretty heavily involved, man. I'm in contact with the Forest Service almost daily, dude, scouting timber sales and, trying to prevent the man from cutting down the old growth. So we went and did a lockdown at this place called Horse Byers in the Willamette River watershed. And we locked down this forest. And, we were successful. We held off the man long enough to get it locked up through the cutting season, man. But that wasn't due ultimately to us. What had happened was there had been a forest fire, arson related, caused across the valley. And so that had shut down the entire forest unit to timber cutting. And our protest and lockdown had been good enough to hold it off, and then the fire started and they couldn't cut trees for another 6 months. So time goes on, and I'm fighting my case in the court system. I had some Supreme Court rulings backing me up, saying I'm perfectly allowed to go into the United States Forest Service land and protect the trees that should not be cut down, man. It was illegal, but hey, that's not for me to say, man. It's all an illusion, right? So, in the midst of this, man, I'm registering all these skateboarders, and I'm meeting with the governor and congressmen and senators, and my girlfriend at the time, she's working as a campaign coordinator for this chick, Karen Moskowitz, who is running this ultimately successful campaign for senator, and so we're pretty heavily involved, man. Like, that's what we're doing, dude. We're fighting the man. And so I have this raging party over at my house, man. A bunch of old school bros show up, and it's one of those, man, mayhem and chaos. And the next morning, dude, all hungover, shot out, got my tie-dye socks on, and we get a knock at the door, man, and my girl comes in and she's like, dude, the FBI's at the front door. And I'm like, what? You're kidding me? And she's like, yeah, really? And I go, okay. And I put a towel on, and I got my rainbow socks on, and I go answer the door dressed just like that. And sure enough, man, it's the man. It's the feds. The boogeyman's at my door. So I proceed to start talking to him about what's going on. And they basically filled me in that they were going to charge me with federal arson and conspiracy to commit arson, for the fires that had occurred. And they proceeded to tell me that they knew full well that I didn't have anything to do with it, and that we who were locking down the timber sale did not have anything to do with it. But their basic point was that they were going to fuck me over, and they were basically told me, hey, we've been keeping an eye on you, we know what you're up to, we know you're registering these kids and being ultimately super effective, and you're not playing by the rules, dude. You're not a fucking hippie and a retard. You're basically like a legitimate American fighting the man. And so they said, we're going to charge you. And We know you didn't do it, but we're gonna jam you up, man. We know you can't afford to hire the lawyers and you don't have the time to fight this out in federal court, and ultimately you're probably gonna end up being locked up, man, in a federal prison. And you know, it didn't seem that crazy because at the time they were locking up a lot of activists, man, and they were breaking out these old archaic laws from the 1800s, maritime laws, commerce laws, all sorts of stuff, and throwing some pretty mellow cats behind bars for some extended periods of time. And you know, it was that moment where I balked, dude. I said, okay, man, I declared uncle, dude, and I folded up my eco camp and disbanded my group and moved to Pennsylvania and joined a militia. The irony of that, but that's another story for another time. So, you know, I've always lived with that as one of my ultimate regrets, was I didn't stick out the fight against the man and save the trees, you know, because the trees are rad. But ultimately, as I've gotten sober and come to understand the illusion, is none of that shit was real, man. The man, the trees, all figments of my imagination, all my ego trying to convince me that it was real, man. And it really wasn't real, dude. It never happened, you know. They were only cutting down the trees because my mind was making them cut down the trees. I know that's pretty far out thinking, but you know, the more I grow older and the more I understand what I was up to at the time, the more I've come to realize, yeah, it was all an illusion, man. I was putting a lot of time and energy fighting a system that basically doesn't exist, you know, except for my own manifestation of it. So, with that story, sitting here on Zuma Beach, December 28th in the sunlight, I think I'm going to sign off here. Bye.